The first thing people noticed about the office wasn't the glass doors or the shiny tiles, it was the fear. It sat in the air like something invisible but heavy. You felt it the moment you stepped in. People walked fast, too fast. Chairs were barely warm before someone stood up again. Laughter was low and quick, like a crime that might get you caught. Even breathing felt like it needed permission. This was Collins Adeyemi's office. Collins was rich. Everyone knew that. His cars were parked neatly outside, different colors for different moods. His suits always looked expensive. His wristwatch alone could pay a worker's rent for a year. And every Sunday, he stood on the pulpit of a large church, holding a microphone, preaching about diligence, excellence, and serving God with all your heart. From Monday to Friday, he ruled his office with the same voice, but without the mercy. In Colin's word, nobody was allowed to be idle, not for 1 minute, not for 1 second. You could only rest during official break time. Any other moment of sitting, leaning, or standing without obvious work was seen as laziness. And laziness, according to Collins, was a sin he hated with passion. So workers learned to perform. They mastered what they called eye service. When Collins wasn't around, shoulders dropped, movement slowed, people breathed. But the moment someone whispered, "Boss is coming," everything changed. Files suddenly appeared in hands. People stood up quickly. Keyboards were hit harder. Phones were hidden like stolen goods. Nobody wanted to be the next example. Amanda learned all this in her first week. She was the new cleaner, slim, quiet, with tired eyes that had seen too much disappointment for her age. She resumed work every morning before most staff arrived. By the time they came in, the floors were already shining, trash bins emptied, desks wiped clean, toilets smelled fresh, the office looked perfect. At first, Amanda believed hard work spoke for itself. She believed wrong. On her second week, after cleaning the entire floor, she sat down briefly on a plastic chair near the store. Just 5 minutes. Her legs were shaking. Her back hurt. She had done her job. That was when Collins walked in. "What are you doing?" His voice cut through the silence. Amanda stood up immediately. "Sir, I just finished cleaning everywhere. I wanted to rest small before." "Did I ask you to talk?" He snapped. Amanda froze. "How dare you open your mouth when I am talking?" He continued, his eyes hard. "If I ever find you sitting idle again, you will be sacked. I am not paying anyone here to sit down and warm the chairs. You must always be doing something, always." Amanda nodded quickly. "I'm sorry, sir." He walked away like she didn't exist. That day, something changed inside her. From then on, even when there was nothing to do, Amanda found something to pretend with. She wiped already clean tables. She arranged chairs that were already straight. She carried a mop around like a prop. When her body begged her to sit, she leaned on the wall and stood up again immediately she heard footsteps. Her salary was small, embarrassingly small, below minimum wage, but she needed it. Amanda was not lazy, she was not useless, she was not uneducated. She was a graduate of mass communication, but life had a way of silencing degrees. After graduation, jobs didn't come, connections failed, promises died quietly. Rather than stay at home begging or depending on people, Amanda took the cleaning job. At least it gave her dignity, or so she thought. Weeks passed. The office remained tense. Everyone knew Colin's temper. He scolded people publicly. He shouted like shouting was his skill. And because jobs were scarce, nobody talked back. They swallowed their pride daily and told themselves it's better than nothing. Amanda tried to do the same until the day her body gave up before her courage did. That morning, she arrived early as usual. She cleaned everywhere, top to bottom. By noon, everything sparkled. There was nothing else to do. Her arms felt heavy. Her head throbbed. Sweat soaked her uniform. She told herself, Just 5 minutes. So she sat, not even 2 minutes passed. Unbelievable. Amanda looked up. Collins stood there. The office went quiet. You could hear pens drop. People pretended to work, but their ears stretched. So, this is what you do? He said loudly. Sit down and waste my time? Amanda stood up. Sir, I have cleaned everywhere. There's nothing else to do. Shut up! He barked. You are lazy. Absolutely lazy. People like you are good for nothing. This is why your life is where it is. Those words landed hard. Lazy, good for nothing. This is why your life is where it is. Something broke. Amanda felt it snap inside her chest. A tightness she had been holding for weeks burst open. Her eyes burned, not with tears, but with anger. Before she could stop herself, words came out. How dare you, sir? The office gasped. Colin stared at her, shocked. Just because you're my boss does not mean you're my god. Amanda continued, her voice shaking but loud. You shout because of the silly salary you pay? Salary that cannot even meet minimum wage? People froze. Someone dropped a file. The fact that I am a cleaner does not mean I am useless, she said. It does not mean I don't have a future. Colin's face turned red. You're mad. I will sack you. That word, sack, pushed her over the edge. You call yourself a pastor? Amanda said, her voice rising. Yet you frustrate people because of peanuts you call salary. You stand on the pulpit every Sunday preaching, but your heart is like stone. There was silence. I wonder if the words you preach ever minister to you before they minister to anyone else. She went on, fake pastor, eating people's tithe, enjoying glory, but paying workers crumbs. Amanda hissed. Then she walked away. Nobody moved. Some people peeped from behind their monitors. Some felt a strange joy rise in their chest. Someone had finally said it. Someone had done what they were too afraid to do. Colin stood there, frozen. For the first time in his life, words failed him. He turned slowly and walked back to his office. Each step felt heavy. He shut the door quietly, like a man afraid of noise. The rest of the day, he couldn't concentrate. Every sentence Amanda spoke replayed in his head. Fake pastor, stone heart, peanuts. The words refused to leave. Amanda, on the other hand, didn't wait till closing time. She picked her bag and left. As she walked out of the building, her heart pounded. She didn't know what tomorrow held. She didn't know how she would survive without the job. But for the first time in a long while, she felt free. Collins didn't drive home that evening the way he usually did. Normally, he enjoyed the silence in his car. It gave him space to plan sermons, business strategies, and how to correct staff the next day. But that night, the silence felt loud, too loud. Amanda's voice followed him all the way home. Fake pastor, stone heart, peanut. He loosened his tie, then tightened it again, as if the problem was his collar and not his conscience. At a red light, he caught his reflection in the mirror. For a split second, he didn't like what he saw. At home, his wife, Esther, noticed immediately. She had lived with Collins long enough to know his moods. This one was different. He didn't greet her properly. He didn't complain about traffic. He didn't even switch on the TV. He just sat. Collins, she called gently. What happened? Nothing, he replied too quickly. She walked closer. You're lying. He sighed deeply, the kind of sigh that comes from a place people rarely visit inside themselves. A cleaner insulted me today, he finally said. Esther raised an eyebrow. Insulted you how? She talked back, in front of people, disrespected me. Esther waited. She knew her husband. There was always more. So? She asked. What did you do before she talked back? Collins frowned. Why does that matter? Because people don't explode for nothing, she said calmly. What did you say to her? He hesitated. I corrected her, he said. Corrected? How? There was silence. Collins, Esther said softly but firmly. Tell me exactly what happened. Reluctantly, he spoke. He told her about seeing Amanda's seat, about calling her lazy, about saying she was good for nothing, about threatening to sack her. Esther listened without interrupting. When he finished, he expected sympathy, support, maybe anger on his behalf. Instead, she shook her head slowly. "You were wrong," she said. Collins stared at her. "What?" "You were wrong," she repeated. "Very wrong." "You're supporting her?" He snapped. "I'm supporting the truth," Esther replied. "You've become too harsh, Collins. You treat people like machines, like they don't feel pain or exhaustion." "She disrespected me." "She reacted," Esther corrected. "There is a difference." Collins stood up. "You don't understand what it takes to run a business. And you don't understand what it takes to be human anymore." Esther shot back. That hit him harder than Amanda's words. "You are their boss, not their owner," Esther continued. "Paying someone does not give you the right to strip them of dignity. And don't even get me started on the pastor part." Collins looked away. "You preach love on Sundays," she said quietly. "But from Monday to Friday, you rule with fear. That's not discipline, that's cruelty." The room went silent. Esther softened her tone. "If you truly want to know who you've become, ask your staff. Let them talk freely, without fear." Collins laughed bitterly. "They won't tell the truth." "They will," she said, "if you let them do it anonymously." That night, Collins didn't sleep. He tossed and turned. His mind replayed moments he had ignored for years. Faces of staff who looked scared when he walked in. Forced busyness, fake seriousness, fear disguised as respect. By morning, he made a decision. At work, Collins surprised everyone. He sent a message to all staff. No shouting, no long speech, just a simple announcement, an anonymous review system. Everyone could write freely what they liked, what they didn't, how they truly felt. People were suspicious at first. Some laughed nervously. Some said it's a trap. Some ignored it. But slowly, messages started coming in. Collins sat alone in his office, reading. The first one was mild. The second was cautious. The third was honest. By the 10th message, his chest felt tight. "You intimidate us. You make us afraid to breathe. We pretend to work when you're around because resting feels like a crime. You shout instead of correcting. You pay us little, but expect everything. We respect you, but we fear you more." One message hit him hardest. "You talk about Christ, but we don't see him in how you treat us." Collins dropped the paper. For the first time, he saw himself through their eyes, not as a disciplined leader, but as a tyrant. Meanwhile, Amanda was at home, staring at her phone. No calls, no messages, no apology. She expected that. She had already decided not to return. Even if Collins begged, some environments were too toxic to heal inside. She updated her CV, sent applications, reached out to old classmates. Some replied kindly, most didn't reply at all. Days turned into weeks. Money finished quickly. There were nights Amanda cried quietly, wondering if she had made a mistake, wondering if pride had cost her survival. But every time doubt crept in, she remembered Colin's words, "good for nothing," and she knew silence would have destroyed her more. Back at the office, Collins changed, not overnight. Change rarely comes that way. He stopped shouting. He stopped hovering. He allowed people to sit when their work was done. He increased salaries, even when it hurt his ego. The office felt lighter. People smiled more. Productivity improved without fear. But something remained unfinished. Amanda. When Collins learned she hadn't returned, guilt hit him fully. He asked for her number. "Amanda," he said when she picked up, his voice softer than she remembered. "I owe you an apology." She listened quietly. I was wrong, he continued. Everything you said, it changed me. Please come back. There was a pause. I'm sorry too, Amanda said, but I am not coming back. Collins swallowed. Okay, I understand. They ended the call. That night, Collins prayed differently, not like a preacher, like a man who had finally seen his flaws. 3 months, that was how long it had been since she walked out of Collins' office without looking back. 3 months of uncertainty, 3 months of rejection emails, 3 months of learning how loud silence could be. Amanda woke up every morning before her alarm rang. She lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, thinking. There were days she almost regretted speaking up. Not because she felt wrong, but because hunger had a way of questioning courage. Bills didn't care about pride. Rent didn't care about self-respect. There were mornings she dressed up, went to cyber cafes, and applied for jobs until her eyes hurt. Afternoons she returned home tired, sometimes hopeful, often disappointed. Nights she prayed earnest prayers. God, I just want to work. I'm not lazy. Please, give me a good job. She had told herself many times that dignity was expensive. Standing up for yourself came with consequences people rarely talked about. The internet loved stories of bold clapbacks and instant success, but real life didn't move that fast. Sometimes, after sending applications, Amanda would remember the office she cleaned, the smell of disinfectant, the forced busyness, the fear, and she would remind herself why she left. She didn't miss that place. What she missed was stability. One afternoon, when hope was thinning, her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it. Almost. It was an email. Not the usual, we regret to inform you. Not silence, not rejection. It was short. We would like to schedule an interview for a remote social media management role. Amanda read it 3 times. Her hands shook. She replied immediately, trying to sound calm even though her heart was racing. The interview was scheduled for the next day, online, video call. That night, she barely slept. She practiced answers, adjusted her CV, cleaned her small room like someone important was coming to visit. She ironed the only formal top she had. When the interview started, Amanda surprised herself. She spoke with confidence. She explained strategies. She talked about engagement, storytelling, audience psychology, things she had learned and sharpened online. Why the world ignored her. The interviewer smiled. 2 days later, another email came. She got the job. Amanda screamed. She covered her mouth quickly, then laughed, then cried. She checked the offer letter again and again. The salary almost didn't feel real. It was more than 100 times what she earned as a cleaner. She sat on her bed, stunned. In that moment, Colin's voice flashed through her mind. Good for nothing. She shook her head slowly. Life had a strange sense of irony. While Amanda's life quietly turned around, Collins was also facing changes, deeper ones. The office had transformed. Staff no longer jumped at shadows. People worked with less fear and more sincerity. Collins noticed something interesting. Productivity improved when pressure reduced. Yet, peace didn't come easily to him. Every Sunday, when he stood on the pulpit, Amanda's words returned. Fake pastor. At first, it angered him. Then, it humbled him. Eventually, it broke him. One Sunday evening, after church, Collins stayed alone in the church long after everyone had left. He sat on the front row, staring at the altar like it might speak back to him. This was the same altar where hands had been laid on his head years ago. He remembered that day clearly. He had worn his best suit. The church elders smiled widely at him. Everyone knew Collins was a blessing to the ministry. He funded projects, paid for renovations, gave generously during offerings. He never missed service. When the ordination was announced, people clapped. They called him faithful. They called him committed. They called him chosen. Nobody asked too many questions about his character. In that church, wealth and consistency were often mistaken for calling. Collins remembered how proud he felt kneeling there, how powerful it felt when they poured oil on his head, how quickly he rose from member to leader to pastor. His influence grew faster than his compassion. Somewhere along the way, authority replaced humility, control replaced service, and money gave him a loud voice that nobody dared to question, until a cleaner did. Amanda's face flashed in his mind again. She was never my enemy. He whispered to himself. She was my mirror. That truth was heavy in his chest. The following week, Collins did something he had never done before. He called for a staff meeting, not to correct, not to warn, not to threaten. People walked in cautiously. Old habits die hard. Some stood even when there were cheers. Some clutched files unnecessarily. Fear was still muscle memory. Collins noticed, and it hurt. He cleared his throat. His voice wasn't loud this time. I called this meeting because I owe you all an apology. I thought I was being disciplined. I convinced myself that fear would make you better workers. But I was wrong. People exchanged looks. I have been harsh, condescending. I have spoken to people in ways no human deserves, especially those who earned the least. His voice cracked slightly, and he didn't rush to hide it. I can't undo the past, but I'm learning, and I want this office to be a place where people work, not suffer. No dramatic speech, no religious language, just truth. Some staff were shocked, some were guarded. A few nodded quietly, unsure whether to trust the change. Forgiveness didn't come instantly, and Collins didn't expect it to. Months passed. The office continued to change. Not perfectly, but genuinely. People rested when their work was done. Conversations returned. Laughter sounded less forced. Respect replaced fear. Slowly, carefully. One afternoon, while reviewing staff records, Collins paused at her name. Cleaner, mass communication graduate. He leaned back and closed his eyes. She was too big for that place. He murmured. Amanda, on the other hand, was in a different world now. She worked from home. No supervisor hovering. No shouting, no pretending. Her laptop was open, her phone beside her, notifications popping in from a client thousands miles away. She worked hard, but this time it felt fair. Sometimes, in quiet moments, her mind drifted back to that office, not with bitterness, with clarity. That day she talked back. She didn't know her life would shift. She just knew she couldn't keep shrinking. She remembered something her mother once told her when life felt unfair. Not everyone you meet is meant to stay. Some people are only there to teach you what you should never tolerate. Amanda learned that lesson through pain. Months later, Amanda was waiting at a bus stop when she heard her name. She turned and froze. It was one of the women from the office. They talked briefly, small things, work, life. Then the woman hesitated, lowered her voice and said, "That day you spoke to him. Everything changed after that." Amanda frowned slightly. "Changed how?" "He stopped shouting," the woman said. "He apologized to us. He let people sit. The office is calm now. We work without fear." Amanda didn't respond immediately. The buses came and went. People pushed past them. Life continued like nothing important had just been said. Finally, she nodded once. She didn't feel proud. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt something quieter. The relief of knowing her pain wasn't pointless. She boarded a bus, sat by the window, and looked out at the city blurred past. She had lost a job that day, but she had reclaimed her voice. And somewhere behind her, An office that once ran on fear now ran on humanity, because one tired cleaner refused to swallow another insult. Money couldn't buy that lesson. Power couldn't silence it. Religion couldn't hide from it. Sometimes, the loudest change begins with the softest person finally saying enough. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please give it a like, share it with your friends and your family. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.